Good morning. Welcome back to my second attempt at Krustoo Farms Homesteading Challenge. It's the month of November in year 3. So this is the penultimate episode, the second to last. Basically achieved almost everything I need to do. The only thing that's left is I need 2 more pallets of bread by the end of next month. And then I can do a few optional things. So let's go ahead and check out the farm. Alright. Chickens are doing good. There's another pallet of eggs ready to go. Alright. 4 pallets of lettuce. Still a pallet of honey ready to go. Alright. So 1,300 liters of milk ready to... How the hell are you guys out of food again? I just filled you up last month. Damn. Alright, so I guess I'm going to start off by feeding cows. Let's check the other barn too. Pigs are doing good. How the hell did you blast through so much food again? Damn. Quite a bit of flour. It's got to go over to the bakery. Alright. Get the Landini out of the way. Yeah, today my bad driving isn't my fault. I got a cat here on my lap that's trying to scratch his ears on my hand. It's working the keyboard controls. Where did I leave my little trailer? Oh, there's my little trailer. Oh, and there's the last 2 pallets of bread I need and already in the food barn waiting to be put into storage. Alright, so I need to go to tip side left. There we go. That's too big of a forklift. Besides, it's not worth it at this point for me to buy it. Alright. But do want to check, see what type of contracts are available right now. Harvesting cotton. I don't need to be harvesting cotton. There's one hoeing contract out there. Oh, I got a lot of milk to put away. No, I want to see if there's anything new in the constructibles. Yeah, there's some pretty good stuff in there. Alright. So now let's go put hay in the other dairy barn. Let's go grab another load of hay. Alright, let's go put back this trailer, then switch tractors and start putting away all my pallets. I think I might end up combining this month and next month together into one episode. Since I don't have any field work to do and there's no reason for me to do a contract this month. Alrighty now. At this point, I'm only making lettuce to run up the score a little bit. I don't need any more products from greenhouses. I'm not going to sell everything off either. I'm going to hold on to the save. I might play with it for fun without the homestead rules applied. The weather icon says it's sunny, but it looks like drizzle to me. In real life, we're in the process of getting our first snow of the year right now. That should be more than enough flour. The rest can just go into storage. I really like cooking with olive oil. The only problem with olive oil is that it doesn't like being cooked at high heat. You cook with it at high heat, it turns into trans fat, which is a very unhealthy fat. Kind of spoils the whole point of using olive oil, which is normally a healthy fat. Right now on Farming Simulator 25, there's no way to make lard or tallow. I make and use quite a bit of lard in real life. Of course, have to start the engine on my pallet fork. Yeah, play with that on for realism's sake. But that kind of ruins realism when I have to start my pallet fork. Now I have to use super strength to get this pallet unstuck. Let's turn that off so I don't use it again by accident. Let's see what's it take to make cake. I don't have any rice flour, so I can't make cake. Because my windmill can't make rice flour. It can only make regular flour. Yeah, for being able to make both oil and flour, it sacrifices the ability to make some of the different types of oil and flour. Such as it can't make oil from soybeans, which a normal oil mill could. And it can't make rice flour, which a normal flour mill could. Also can't make cornmeal, which once again a normal flour mill could make cornmeal. Alright, so I got the one kind of challenging part of putting the stuff away. The rest of this is rather monotonous. So I'll bump out and be back when I'm done and I decide what I'm going to do for the rest of the day. Okay, I'm back. I'm done putting away pallets. So now it's time for a special project for today. Scroll down. Alright, I'm going to build 2 more of these. Make sure to leave enough that I can get around my dairy barn. There we go. Alright, there we go. These are the same as my first shed I built, so it matches the farm very well, I think. Oh, I another pellet spawn here. I'll go and snag it while I'm here. Noodle soup, huh? I wonder if this is like chicken noodle or if it's ramen. I think it's just ramen. Flexi thing is gonna have to stay out where it's at. Because of its size, but I'm gonna get everything else put away into sheds. Alright, all my farm implements are put away somewhere nice and safe. My trailers are still out by the road on easement. They're fine out there. Pallet forks and the counterweight weigh so little, have no movable parts, so they're fine being out in the weather. Maybe tomorrow I'll grab a power washer and clean up all my equipment as a grand finale. Alright, for the first time in this series, I've got everything stored away. So, 1301. Might as well just go ahead and advance to the next month. Okay, here we are. The challenge is officially over. Since I had everything I needed yesterday, this is it. I beat the challenge. I had to make a slight modification to the dairy because even with 3 dairies, I wasn't able to produce uh, 20 pallets of butter and cheese. As far as the extras, I've got a pallet of chocolate for my wife and a pallet of flowers. And I do think that my homestead is, while it's kind of busy, is relatively attractive. It's got a nice house, neatly organized sheds. All of my equipment is currently put away. Got a bit of a windmill theme going here, which is kind of cool. So yeah, I mean, I could go ahead and do a victory lap and just sell everything to see how much I have. But I know without even doing it, it's absurdly large amount. Way beyond what I should have for a 10-acre homestead. Go ahead and just do a quick drive around. My wall of beehives. These are definitely the best beehive to use base game. There might be some in mods that are a little bit better, but these are definitely the best base game beehives. Although overall, I gotta say, bees just are not worth it in Farming Simulator 25. I might as well just plop down a few hives if you got, a spot where you're not using, and they'd be out of the way. But they just don't provide all that much. I kind of do like how this food barn turned out, though. I think I'm going to continue to use this basic idea. But I won't be using the handcart anymore. That thing's too... Actually, that's a good idea. Let's go ahead and go down my vehicle list. Alright. It's a weight. It did its job. So, nothing to talk about there. Pallet fork, very standard. Did its job. Same thing with this bucket. This trailer, it's okay other than it's a wagon. I just bought it because it was on discount. Had nothing really going for it. It wasn't the biggest. It wasn't the easiest to handle. But it had sufficient cargo and did what I needed it to do. Never actually got to use the corn header. This grain header was perfectly adequate. There was a bigger one available that I probably should have got. Barely used this trailer. It was just something convenient to move it around. Okay. I really liked this combine. It did a good job. It was well sized for this map. Uh, this this planter is probably better than it should be. For its technology level, it shouldn't have the ability to do, selective seeding and all the precision farming stuff. Uh, Flexi thing, it did its job. It made its money back in contracts. So, and with the tractors I had, this was probably the best cultivator I could get. All right, the Ford 7810 Turbo Plus. This thing was a rock star. It was my first tractor. It was affordable, and it stayed useful through the entire series. This small trailer, since it's a trailer instead of a wagon, was very useful. I ended up using it more than the larger one, even though it had such a small cargo capacity, but it was what this farm really needed. Barely used it. Perfectly adequate, though. Um, Sufficient. I think I made just enough to cover the cost of it. Okay, I'm going to tell you truthfully, this truck provided me no real value in this series. It was just my personal setup to be how I came to have, $500,000 to set up a homestead. With that said, it's cool and I have a bit of a personal connection to this type of a truck. So if I was going to be a much larger farm where I'd be doing, semi-loads of material, I would definitely recommend this truck. Uh, this was a good addition. It's a mod, but it gave me the ability to move around liquid and milk in a much smaller and easier to handle trailer. Excellent tractor. This thing made everything so much easier and opened so many more options to me. It couldn't have done the farm job by itself, but what the few things it couldn't do, the Ford did an excellent job at. So I would say the Ford and this were an excellent combination of machines. I used it a few times. It was sufficient. Yeah, that's all there really is to it. Once again, its technology level, it really should not have been able to use precision farming features, but it did. This is great. This trailer, it's great because it acts like a mobile warehouse. I can put my pallets into it, and um, it has enough help that I feel like I'm competent loading a trailer like I would be in real life. So kind of eliminates the filter of going through an interface. So I highly recommend this mod. This trailer, it really got kicked to the curb once I got the smaller one. While its size is fine, the fact that it's a wagon instead of a trailer just made it too hard to handle. Well, I needed something to spread lime, and this did it. I would ideally like something a little bit bigger so I don't have to refill it so much, but this did its job. And I also add just like a few of the other pieces of equipment I used, considering the technology level of this implement, it really should not have been able to work with precision farming. This thing here is almost impossible to use, piece of junk. Do not recommend it. If I next time I do this food barn idea, which I did think worked very well, I will not be using this pallet truck. I'll just buy a forklift. It's a very small tedder. It's very cheap. I could have used a bigger one, but this one did the job. It's a slurry spreader, good size, good load. It did what it needed to do. This is basically the smallest forage wagon that you can get in game. And for a 10-acre farm, it was a good size, good fit, did a good job. This rotor hoe, this was another all-star of the series. This provided me with so much income that I needed to keep the series going. Perfectly good loader. I like the fact I was able to recolor it to match my tractor so well. Um, this cultivator was the best cultivator I could get for the Ford tractor. While it was a slightly on the small side, it was more than well good enough to use on my farm. However, it kind of struggled with contracts. That said, I did manage to do quite a few contracts with it until I got the Flexi thing. Very good implement, but I really should have just sold it in favor of the Flexi thing. This mower didn't work out very well for me. Since it's an offset, very long neck mower, it was kind of hard to handle and hard to use on small fields. Now, when I had a situation where I had these long, narrow strips where I had set up, it did great in that situation. But anytime I had to maneuver around anything, it really struggled. I love this thing. This made loading and moving pallets so much easier. The WIFO HMZ 340-3000. Seriously, it is one of the best attachments that you can get, and it is so overlooked by just about everybody. This was a roller added on later. The earlier roller I had was doing its job, but this did it much better. Okay. Alright, this dairy barn, I had some problems with the fact that it doesn't really hold enough food for the size of the dairy, and it doesn't have a pasture. It looks cool, it looks believable. So, I would say if you have some way to auto stock it, it's great. Base game greenhouses, perfectly good. These chicken coops, you got the double and the single. I really like these. They fit the theme of this farm, this homestead, so very well. So excellent in my opinion. This is a base game mushroom warehouse. And once again, it provided all of my needs quite easily. This is interesting to look at, but for its size to its power ratio, not so good. And its companion in the same mod pack, which serves as a flour/oil mill, has a bug where whenever you put grain into it, it just shoots it up to like 3 million. So it's kind of game breaking. But this particular one is fine. I'm going to uninstall this mod though because of how broken and how much it breaks the game with the other windmill. And I posted this on Krustoo's Discord, and he had the same problem with this mill, so it's not something unique to my setup here. Water distributor system worked great. It's a little bit more involved than, some of the mods out there that just, pipe water to the... But it's very believable and, requires me to put some input into it. These little storage sheds are great. They're ideally sized to be, a little storage shed for a homestead like this. Although for the amount of material I was required to have, they weren't big enough. But the small footprint was great. This little sell point, excellent. It's cute. It's nice. I mean, it's for me, since I don't speak German, it would be nice if this was, if it had an English version Because I'm pretty sure there are some German speakers in Michigan, but yeah, I really liked it otherwise. Um, this shed here, I really liked it. That's the reason why I ended up building 3 of them. I rarely turned the lights on, but these are lit. There we go. Okay. These are just base game ornaments, just make the house seem like it more of a lived-in uh, farm. I really like this house. This is in the Alpine pack. And while it didn't necessarily fit the decor so much, it was a good practical house. It had the right uh, settings I needed. And then, of course, this is the swimming pool, and the swing set are base game ornaments. The same with these flowers here. Stadium lights are great. I think that these are base game items. I think they're a little bit too cheap, though. This silo, thematically, really looks good on this farm, but I don't like the fact that it is so multi-fruit. While it is possible to put dividers in silos if you want to have more than one crop, especially if it's something that you don't care if it does mix together. Like if you're storing stuff in there to make feed, it's going to be mixed together at some point. It really doesn't matter. But so it's okay, but I really don't like how multi-fruit it is. The fact that I was able to put anything and everything in it was a bit game breaking. This little device, excellent. Just a little thing that can make a pig feed and mineral feed if I was to go with TMR. So this is what is it called? It's mixed, but I believe in the build menu it's called the Bitten. Very good. Liked it a lot. This shed here is part of this map, and it is a very Michigan barn. But I thought it really worked here to make this food barn out of. And for that matter, to make this work as a food barn, these small productions mods, which basically removes the building and leaves only the tools inside. These have higher production rates than the normal small productions, but they're not as productive as the big ones. So I think they're a good blend, and being set inside of a building like this works great. So it was a thing here with just how much, because even though these have increased production, the fact that it took 3 of them to produce enough dairy to cover my reduced dairy goal just shows how out of whack the original dairy goal was. Which is fine because that was made, in blind. Alright. Open pig pen. This is a base game thing. And then this barn here is a base game ornamental object that I use the ignore collisions to stick in there to make it look more realistic. Because while pigs are very durable and will burrow into the ground to create their own shelters, as a modern animal husbandrist, you don't like leaving your animals out and exposed. Yeah, these beehives are kind of out of place. They look like they belong on an Asian map, but they are definitely the best beehives to use in the base game. I've tried a few different modded ones which really weren't as good as these. It's not that there isn't a modded one that's as good, but those are the best ones that I put in and tried, and they did the job that I needed to do. All right, this is basically a double size of the base game greenhouse, and it makes up for it by requiring inputs other than just water. Now its output, it really isn't all that much higher because, look here, I got one pallet of lettuce out of it. This thing was kind of cool. It's got too much production, however. This was able to really supply a lot of materials, a lot more than a little garden like this should produce. But I gotta say, it's also great, to have a little garden to grow some produce in it, Like, I don't want to necessarily do an entire field of parsnips and get all the equipment needed, but a small raised bed garden where I can grow enough parsnips or potatoes to feed my family is great. So if you're someone that can edit files, just turn the production on this down a little bit and it would be a great mod. It's just a manure heap. I believe this is a base game manure heap. This is basically the same barn as that other one up there. It's from the same mod, but this one has a little outdoor area, so I think it's a little bit better. And then I liked these sheds so much, I went ahead and built 2 more to store all my equipment. This was the first time I've done rice, and I thought the long grain rice was, a nice, interesting crop. It wasn't as, detailed and hard as I thought it would be. Maybe next time I'll try some regular rice instead of just doing long grain rice. This is a base game fruit preservation facility, so nothing special about it. It has a good amount of production. It was able to produce everything I needed and then some extras too. Although I didn't like it sucking up all my flour for no apparent reason. This is a base game cow pasture. And then I put that little shed, that's a base game ornamental shed that I stuck in there, same as with the pigs. And towards the end of this, Highlands fishing expansion came out, so I added the Highland cattle to the map, to the pasture. Highland cattle are kind of a homesteading cattle. They're a lot smaller, so they eat less than like these big Angus do. But they also produce less meat. And they're also kind of a niche market, so they're usually a little bit more expensive than an Angus. But they're also better at finishing on just grass, as to where some of the Angus, if they don't have really good grass-fed genetics, you'll still want to finish them on grain. And of course the deer just like to hang around here. Also very realistic to Michigan. This windmill was the replacement for the original grain windmill. And while it doesn't produce all the types of flowers and all the types of oil, it's a realistic production. They call this an American windmill. I've never seen one like this anywhere. But that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. That means I've never seen it. But overall, I would say this is a good mod and a well-balanced. And who knows, maybe the other windmill in the pack does the stuff that this one doesn't do. And then this well here is base game as well. This gives free water once you build it. As for the map itself, I like it. It's a little bit more flat than Michigan really is, because Michigan has a lot of hills and ravine country. But there are certain places, especially in the very center of the state or over in the thumb area, that are relatively flat. So overall, I give this map a positive rating. I'd like it, and I'd play it on again. Especially like, you know, the little snowman Easter egg here. So this wraps up the series. Thank you to Krustoo Farms for issuing the challenge. Rusty Money for mentioning me. There's a couple others whose names I can't forget, but Rusty Money was the first one to mention me, so that one really stuck out because it's very rare that I ever get any sort of mentions whatsoever. So I guess this is it. Thank you very much for watching, and join me for my next series, which will be on a used machinery only challenge on one of the fantasy maps. I believe I'm going with Calm Lands. Thank you very much for watching.